For this video, I'm going to talk about 4 books where the main character is a killer. The first book is An American Dream by Norman Mailer. This book is more or less a tall tale or a fantasy that the protagonist has. The very first paragraph tips the reader off that this isn't going to be an ordinary novel. Stephen Rojak says, "I met Jack Kennedy in November 1946. We were both war heroes, and both of us had just been elected to Congress. We went out one night on a double date, and it turned out to be a fair evening for me." He goes on to say that he remembered a full moon that night, and he talked to the moon. The moon also talked back to him. After his wife confesses to having 3 lovers, he kills her. Killing her makes him feel good. He felt calm, as if his life had just begun. He throws his wife out the window and has sex with the girl next door while his wife's body lay on the street. This book is a free-for-all when it comes to vices and sin. There's sex, violence, drugs, drinking, and anything else goes, really. The killer doesn't get caught, even though he confesses his crime several times. The second book is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. This is one of my favorite anti-hero or main character as killer books. There are 5 Ripley novels. The best of these is the first one, and that's the one I'm going to talk about. The reason I'm not a fan of the other 4 is because she changed Tom Ripley. She changed the character. So I don't have an interest in those. Tom Ripley is a sociopathic conman who is running from the police. Unexpectedly, he is approached by Mr. Greenleaf, who wants to pay him to go after his son, Dickie Greenleaf. Tom goes on this trip to Italy, and during this time, we get into Tom's mind. We don't really know what Tom's sexuality is, but we assume he is a homosexual because he has a crush on Dickie. Now, he tells Dickie several times that his job was to bring him home because his father wanted him back to work in the family business. Now, Tom hates Dickie's girlfriend, Marge. He just hates everything about her, and she doesn't really like him so much towards the end. But he and Dickie become friends. And as they hang around one another, Tom starts to become Dickie. Eventually, Tom kills Dickie and takes over his identity. This is a very interesting book. It will keep you turning pages. You often wonder what's going on in Tom's head, but Tom is very intelligent. Yet he does have a personality disorder. It's like he doesn't know who he is. So he has to assume another person's identity to feel like something, to feel human almost. The third book I'm going to talk about is Killer on the Road by James Ellroy. Martin Plunkett is a psychopath who comes from a broken home. He starts his criminal life as a peeping Tom, then moves up to theft, and he drugs his mom with large quantities of meth. He said, "That afternoon, I substituted Benzedrine for phenobarbital and replaced the light bulb over my mother's medicine cabinet with a dud. Both types of pills were small and white, and I hoped the dim light would add to the confusion." His mom then had a psychotic break, and she sliced her wrist. When he waited for the ambulance, he gulped down big mouthfuls of his mother's blood. After a brief stint in prison, Plunkett goes on a road trip across the country where he kills numerous people. And throughout the book, there are headlines and articles further verifying his work. For example, on page 121, a headline reads, "Demonic Death for deaf and dumb dishwasher. Another one from page 156 reads, body of unidentified man found in garbage dump. Plunkett is eventually caught by FBI agent Thomas Duesenberg. And while in Sing Sing prison, Plunkett said his transit in human form peaked. So it was time to turn himself inward and shut down his senses until he imploded into space beyond all laws. So apparently he was going to commit suicide. The fourth book is The Killer Inside Me by Jim Thompson. Lou Ford is a 29-year-old deputy of a small town called Central City, Texas. Even at the beginning of the book, we get a sense that something isn't quite right about Lou, but it's not until chapter 2 that we find out what that is. So Lou is given an assignment to run a prostitute out of town. When he gets to Joyce Lakeland's place, the prostitute, she and Lou have an argument, and she slaps him so hard that his ears rung. And his response was to spank her with his belt. And he spanked her so hard that his arm got tired and her butt got bruised. We learn that Lou has a sickness, he calls it, that causes him to do awful things to women. It was repressed for years until Joyce came along. So soon after the incident with the prostitute, a bum asks Lou for money. So he grabs the bum's wrist and burns the palm of his hand with a cigar butt. Lou eventually kills Joyce. He kills his girlfriend, Amy, and a young man named Johnny. The book is filled with plenty of suspense and backstory concerning Lou's psychopathic condition. This is definitely the book to read if you want to get into the mind of a psychopath. Now, a couple of these books have been made into movies. I don't know if American Dream has been made into a movie or Killer on the Road. I didn't look. But I know that The Talented Mr. Ripley and The Killer Inside Me are movies. All of these books are worth reading. But if you could only read one, I would suggest The Talented Mr. Ripley. Anyway, happy readings. Talk to you later. Bye.